All right, let's put ourselves in a scenario. We have two teams playing against each other in a battle royale to see which team is the real champion of the integers. Remember, an integer is simply a whole number that is either positive or negative. If we look at this game, the negative team scored a total of 64 points. So let's mark up our text. I'm going to go ahead and put this on our scoreboard. The positive team scored only 60 points. Don't forget to mark your text. Take out the important pieces. Remember, it's math class, so always look for those numbers. Which team was the integer battle winner? And most importantly, how much did they win by? If you said the negative team, you are absolutely right. So I'm going to write a negative sign for the negative team. 64 to 60, the negative team scored 4 more points. So the negative team was the champion by 4 points. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, why is Mr. Matt so excited about a negative team versus a positive team in a made-up sporting event? Here's why. It's going to take one of the more complicated math concepts that we will cover this year, and it's going to connect it to things that we already know. Now, before we get going, all of us are going to get confused. When you get confused, just remember, that is an opportunity to grow. You are always able to ask questions. You are always able to rewatch our videos. So, let's get going. We're going to use that same positive versus negatives to try to figure out how to combine integers. Now, if you noticed, you did not hear me say add or subtract. I want to get our brains away from those two words right now. All we are doing is combining two different values. They can be positive and negative, they could both be positive, or they could both be negative. But we always use the exact same process. You're going to hear me say, make your scoreboard. This is exactly what I mean. It's a simple T-chart with the negative sign on one side and the positive sign on the other side. Now, we have our 3 important steps. The first step, we want to make sure that we circle each integer. Now, what does that mean? Simply circle the number and the sign. I see a negative 40. I see a positive 25. We are good to go. Let's go to step 2. We've already made our scoreboard, so now we want to put our points for each team into our scoreboard. So let's use a different color. The negative team scored 40 points. The positive team only scored 25 points. Which team won? This one looks a little bit like a blowout. The negative team had more points, so they will give us the sign of our solution. They outscored the positive team by 15. Guess what? You just did one of the most complex concepts in math in about 18 seconds. If we had negative 40 plus 25, the solution would be negative 15. But remember, always think of it as negatives versus positives. On the next screen, I want you to try 2 of these on your own. So go ahead and pause the video, set up your scoreboard, circle your integers, fill in your scoreboard, and then figure out which team wins and by how much. All right, let's check back at our work. If we look at the one on the top, I've been very deliberate with how I word things. Again, you did not hear me say plus or minus. It is always negatives versus positives. The positive team scored 14 versus a negative team that scored 21. I can see the negative team won, so there's my sign for my solution. 21 minus 14 gives me 7. So I could say the answer to 14 plus negative 21 is a negative 7. Same concept on the bottom. That's the exact same problem that we just walked through. Negative team won by 15 points. I want you to practice the same thing. We're going to get good at this. So if you're still confused, don't panic. But if we read through the instructions at the top, step 1, circle each sign and number. Then write the score onto your scoreboard. Don't go too fast. Slow yourself down and use your scoreboard. Lastly, and the most important, write the sign of the winning team and the amount that they won by, and that will be your answer. So go ahead and pause your video. When you're ready to check your work, unpause and the solutions will be on the board. All right, let's check our work. There's one that I want to focus on. Number 4. The positive team scored 5, but so did the negative team. So if this was a soccer match, we would say this is a tie. But since this is math, a tie means 0. So think back to additive inverses. Additive inverses always end in a tie. That means that two numbers are opposites. So 5 and negative 5 would be additive inverses or opposites. Thank you for following along in the first part of our lesson today. I'll see you soon.